It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and from our studios on MDI Road, this is the news. First, the headlines. President Jammeh urges the citizenry to embrace animal husbandry as a viable economic activity in order to reduce the dependency on imported products. Another award for President Jammeh. African Leadership Magazine, a reputable international organization, recognizes the remarkable development initiatives being championed by the Gambian leader. Gambians gear up for Eid prayers, with many making last-minute attempts to secure sacrificial rams. A good number have already benefited from the presidential ram sales, which is underway at the July 22nd Square in Banjul. And Burkina Faso's parliament announces the disbanding of the elite presidential guards unit amid tension in the West African state. Well, these and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I am WINIFRED NICOL. Thanks for joining us once again. The President of the Republic, His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh Babili Mansa, has again called for attitudinal change among Gambians by embracing animal husbandry as an economic activity in order to end the dependence on imported animals during festive periods, when prices usually skyrocket beyond the reach of the ordinary people. Professor Jammeh was speaking at State House after people thronged the July 22nd Square all day to buy rams provided by him at very cheap prices. Mamadou Jallo reports.
48 hours before the feast of Eid al-Adha, known as Tobaski, the waiting is now over for many Muslims to get their sacrificial rams. A walk through the streets of the Greater Banjul area, one is wowed by the thousands of rams waiting for potential buyers, with many put off by the price, which often skyrockets during festive periods like this. Therefore, many who were waiting for the president got their chance to buy a ram at $5,000 and $7,000 respectively, depending on the size. This is now an annual occurrence when the president once again lavishes Gambians with his generosity. But with prices of animals soaring to unprecedented levels, Professor Jammeh warned that it is time Gambians change their attitudes and embrace animal husbandry as an economic venture, or at least rear their own sacrificial lamb.
Agriculture is not all about growing granules year in, year out. You make more money, in fact, just rearing sheep. And these people, they don't feed them. They just take them and graze them in the grazeland where there's less grass. We should be self-sufficient in livestock, especially with regards to small ruminants, in less than a year from now, because we have we have a lot of water. We have some of this one, they will trek for days without seeing even one single grain of grass. We have a lot of water, we have a lot of grass, especially you go to CRR. CRR and URR alone should be able to provide enough grassland for all these small ruminants. So we have to change our attitude. We have to really change our attitude. If we change our attitude, we'll make a lot of money.
For the president, Gambians have two choices to choose from: either rear their own animals or continue to buy at exorbitant prices from foreign dealers who import animals from Senegal, Mali, or Mauritania. By choosing the former, Professor Jammeh continued, it would enable Gambians cut down prices, reap the economic benefits, and conserve foreign exchange, which would ultimately drive socio-economic development.
If you know that you are not a good farmer, at least get a pair of, two breeding pairs of maybe sheep or goat. You take care of them. If you have 2 rams or 3 rams, you sell them. Okay, some of these ones, they will tell you about 30,000, 25,000, something. Now, if you have 3 of that, you have more than what a farmer would get in a year. But we have to change attitude. Our attitude is the problem. Our worst enemy is our attitude. You know, we want to start from this, every building, we want to start a skyscraper from the roof. By the time you come down, you're already dead because you cannot start a building from the roof. Gambians, you give them 10,000, tell them go and start something in the earth. President Amul Lumajo, Madam Deaf business, 10,000. Senegal, you get your fee far less than that. So then you want to change your attitude.
However, the president also sounded a word of caution, saying that subsidizing the cost of a ram annually would not continue forever, as the Gambia continues its march to economic superpower status, warning that those who expect free things are doomed to poverty, whilst those ready to venture into sustainable animal husbandry would reap the benefits. He finally assured those still intending to buy rams that he will supply more animals tomorrow at the July 22nd Square in Banjul. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
Highlights of that program shall air later tonight. The Presidential Tobaski Ram Sales is an annual event designed to provide Muslims and the general public with quality rams at very affordable prices. Samuel Ba was at the July 22nd Square on day one of the ram sales, and he prepares this news report.
Tobaski Ram sale officially opened on Tuesday afternoon at the July 22nd Square in Banjul. The annual gesture of benevolence extended to the Muslim faithful by the Gambian leader is designed to provide them with affordable rams for the sacrificial rite. With less than 72 hours to the Muslim feast of Tobaski, of course, preparations all over the world are in high gear. And here in the Gambia too, at the July 22nd grounds, of course, the scene is one of buying and selling. And indeed, the people we have spoken to are all indeed full of praises for the president for such a wonderful gesture. On the first day of the Tobaski Ram sale, scores of potential buyers have already converged around the perimeter of the historic July 22nd grounds, perhaps triggered by the affordable prices of the rams. The process, according to the chairperson of the Tobaski Ram sales, is very orderly, and they are hoping to meet the needs of the buyers who otherwise could not afford the expensive animals sold out in the markets.
So far, it's going smoothly. It's just that the number of people standing outside and the number of people wishing to come here to buy the Tobaski Ram is I think is on the rise. So it's a challenge for us to be able to satisfy everybody, to be honest with you. We are trying our best, and His Excellency the President first, I must commend him, for this wonderful gesture, responding to the needs of Gambians. The rams outside, are very, very expensive. The average person cannot afford to buy those ones, definitely speaking. So this is why the President always intervenes.
I spoke to some of the buyers, most of whom are not first-timers to the President's annual ram sale. And the resonating answers are affordability and quality of the livestock.
Quite impressed, and I'm definitely happy with this move because looking at the rams that I saw here today, even though, as you said, I've not reached the queue yet, but then looking at the market price and then the value that they are charged here, definitely is close to 50%, cheaper than the normal market, and at least this will help those that don't have a lot of resources to at least get one for the Tobaski.
And as a Muslim, these rams are looking very good compared to those ones at Westfield. Yeah,
they are very good.
I've never seen it all over the world like what President Jammeh is doing. He's doing excellently, providing these rams for us. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to affordable price, and I will continue to pray for him and his family. May God continue to protect him, guide him and his family.
I came here to buy ram to HE, our able president. This, when you go out, they will tell you 8,000, 9,000, but here is 7,000. I'm very grateful about the president. He's always doing it for us. I'm very happy. I'm very grateful.
I think by looking at this sheep, I don't need to talk about the price. I mean, if you ask outside, these are the kind of rams that will cost 10,000 plus. And I think the president intervening in trying to help people acquire rams here is the most benevolent gesture that one could do for his people. And I think that's worth commendation, and it's also worth emulation, because if Gambians start doing this, obviously it will make things easier. And I would like to pray for the head of state, His Excellency, the President, for long life, good health, and a happy and prosperous Eid.
To take advantage of the opportunity given to us by our able leader. The prize you get from His Excellency is better. The rams are well fed. As I keep saying, this is a president who cares, who wants to make sure that his people are happy.
Some of the buyers, like Alhaji Sekou Sow, have traveled great distances to capitalize on the opportunity. We know the president would provide us with such an opportunity, like he has always done over the years, he said. Among other buyers located from the crowd were Christine Mendy, Horeja Jame, Ajisenabu Kujabi, Yamanjai, among others, who all heap praises on President Jammeh for providing them with rams at affordable prices. According to the coordinators of the activity, sales are expected to continue in the coming days ahead of the feast.
We are here for as long as, the trucks keep arriving, we will be here until we exhaust everything. Yes, tomorrow we will be here, also until the day of the Tabaski, we will be here making sure that, what His Excellency intends, for the public, is definitely carried, to the letter, definitely speaking. Even if there is one ram available inside, we will give it out, because that is what he wants.
Indeed, the people we have spoken to are all indeed full of praises for the president for such a wonderful gesture. From the July 22nd grounds in Banjul, I am Samuel Ba.
The prestigious African Leadership magazine has given a Mauritius Award to the President, His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh Babili Mansa, for the enviable developments he initiated over the years. The award was received by the Vice President, Her Excellency, Ajah Dr. Aissatou Saidi, on behalf of the President in Washington, D.C. We have more in this report by Ibrahim Abalde.
Members of the editorial board of the African Leadership magazine are fully aware of the huge potential in the United States and the diaspora in terms of investment opportunities in Africa. Taking advantage of the untapped opportunities back home, the African Leadership magazine is of the belief that Africans in the diaspora should invest heavily in the continent to spur economic growth.
We believe that Africa has come of age, Africa is making progress, the narrative about Africa has changed, and there are leaders who are contributing. This is by no means a final list, but for this year, among the others who are doing well, the two which came up the most is the President of Gambia and the President of Namibia. And the reasons are simple. We're trying to say the narrative about Africa shouldn't be as defined by the Western media. It is time we define what we see. I've gone to Gambia. It's a tourist heaven. It's one of the few places in Africa where you see both expatriates on the street. Everybody's at peace. There are no issues of terrorism. There's calm, and leadership is working.
By singling out two African leaders in the passing of President Haji Genop of Namibia and the President, His Excellency, Sept Professor Alhaji Dr. A.J.J. Jammeh of the Gambia, for their efforts in spearheading numerous development programs is worthy of commendation.
There must have been extreme thought, a great deal of thought which has gone into this. I have had the opportunity of dealing with these people, and I can tell you that they're extremely thoughtful. And let me just say this, that the one place on my bucket list is in fact Gambia. So I trust that I will have the opportunity sooner rather than later to come there, and certainly for us to open up a law office in Gambia, because I know there are significant opportunities in Gambia, and we want to take advantage of those opportunities by bringing African Americans to come there, as well as other, Americans generally, to come and see the beautiful place.
Renowned black African leader such as Martin Luther King III applauded the award, but was quick to say that when it comes to investment, the United States should do better.
I applaud the magazine for honoring those who have done work on the continent and continue. Obviously, there is a lot of work that is needed. African Americans must find a way to lobby Congress so that Congress will say, okay, instead of providing a small amount, we're going to make sure we are able to provide an even larger amount, because it does exist. And it's not just aid, it's also trade. There are viable business opportunity that some is being done, but it must go much further.
Summing up, the Vice President, Her Excellency Dr. Isaac Njai Sedi, said the latest award by the African Leadership magazine is a clear manifestation of the development project President Jammeh initiated since he came to power.
We are not surprised. Any genuine Gambian, like I said, knows what developments are taking place in the Gambia. Since 1994, it's always been progressive, not retrogressive development. And we've been gaining grants in a lot of areas. When we just started the MDGs, we were checked. The whole world was checked. And we said we should attain the MDGs that we set for ourselves as a globe. And the Gambia has attained most of them. And you know, you look at the economic sector, we're doing very well. Whilst the world was on global recession, the Gambia had 5% GDP growth and 10% general. I mean, that is, for a small country like the Gambia, with a narrow resource base. We say narrow because we have not started discovering the others. But despite that, because of the leadership we have, the leadership style, as we said in our statement, it's an innovative leadership style. But not only that, but it's a focused leadership style, a leadership with a vision, and a leadership that has the following of the Gambians and the trust of Gambians. So that is definitely commendable. And we are lucky as a country that it's not only Gambians who are genuine, who recognize His Excellency's efforts, but indeed the international community at large. That's why he won so many awards.
Ibrahima Balde, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, renowned African-American activists are not relenting in their quest to rally more support for Africa. The Gambian and Namibian presidents have been singled out by the African Leadership magazine for their role in ushering unprecedented developments in their countries. As we hear in this report by Ibrahima Balde, the point of emphasis at the just concluded African Leadership Awards was aimed at challenging the dominant mainstream narrative.
The Four Seasons Hotel in Washington, D.C. provided the platform for what is likely to remain in the minds of these participants for a very long time. The organizers of the event say they are inspired by the dynamic leadership of the President, His Excellency Sept Professor Alhaji Dr. AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa, and the invaluable development projects he initiated over the years.
We have realized that the positive things going on in Africa, the leaders who are actually committed to advancing the story or changing the narrative of the larger African society have not been given enough media coverage. Look at what President Yahya did. He set free about over 300 prisoners and reintegrate them back into the society. The Western media are not talking about that. It is something that should have been on every front page of the newspaper, but nobody is talking enough about that. So what we are committed to doing as African Leadership magazine is to make sure that stories like these make front page. We have enough people doing the corruption cases, the HIV cases, but that is not all Africa has to offer. We have leaders like President Yahya who are committed to improving the lives of his people, and that is the story we want to tell. Positive stories of African leaders doing positive things for their people.
The Vice President, Her Excellency Aja Dr. Isaac Njai Sedi, and some members of cabinet who accompanied her to Washington marched in a single file to receive the award given to President Jammeh Babili Mansa.
The jury's choice of His Excellency the President is, however, validated by the receipt of similar awards, like I said earlier on, by His Excellency the President, measured by the criteria that was set by the jury itself. He's earned worldwide recognition and has been honored and decorated with numerous prestigious awards, the latest, of course, being a UN FAO's recognition of the Gambians, particularly in its achievement of surpassing what was set in MDG 1C targets of reducing prevalence of malnutrition and undernourishment to less than 5% in 2015, and the African Union Award in recognition of Gambia's attainment of MDG 9, which is, of course, access to clean and potable water, that is drinking water, within 15 minutes walk.
The night was also meant to decorate other distinguished personalities from across various areas of specialization. The recent award given to President Jammeh Babili Mansa by the prestigious Africa Leadership magazine is seen by others as a form of encouragement for the Gambian leader to continue doing the good work he is doing in the country.
If any institution decide to promote leadership, it's a good thing. Of course, anytime a leader is designated as a winner of an award, you see people who applaud and you see people who have reasons to criticize and say why. But I consider this kind of award as somehow what I should call an encouragement, a prodding to do better, to rule better, and to make sure that at the end of the day, people who are ruled and led benefit from a good form of leadership. And I think that that's the reason why these type of events are important. And we should not see them as just ego-tripping and form of enhancing leaders without really making sure that they are prodded and supervised to make sure that they deliver on their promises and do show proper leadership.
What the African Leadership magazine seeks to do is to highlight the story of the African people with a view to encouraging many other people to invest on the continent. The high point of this year's event is the award given to the Namibian president and the Gambian president. Of course, the Gambian delegation was represented here on behalf of the president by the vice president, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Aizat Njai Sedi, and a number of cabinet ministers who are here to receive the award on behalf of the Gambian president. Ibrahim Balde reporting from Washington for GRTS News.
Meanwhile, the sale of sacrificial rams by His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa, will continue tomorrow Wednesday at the July 22nd Square. This is to enable all those who were unable to buy rams on day one of the sales to have the chance to buy high-quality rams at affordable prices. The Banjul Ferry Terminal, the country's main sea crossing point, is a hive of activities as hundreds of travelers make last-minute efforts to travel to their various destinations ahead of the Muslim Feast of Tobaski. Many are taking advantage of the smooth operations of the ferry services to travel between Banjul and Bara, while others prefer to use canoes plying the 7 nautical miles.
2 days to go before Muslims the world over reflect on the sacrifice of Prophet Ibrahim, marking the feast of Eid al-Adha, locally called Tobaski. Muslims across the world celebrate the feast in different forms, central to which is the slaughtering of the sacrificial lamb, the consumption of sumptuous dishes and dresses in beautiful African dresses in the case of Gambia. Most people in the rural Gambia prefer to spend Tobaski with the kid and kin in rural Gambia, putting extra pressure on transport service, including the ferries flying Banjul-Bara crossing routes, which enable others to reach destination as far as Senegal and beyond. So far, many express satisfaction with the state of affairs here. The man managing the ferry service, Hamidou Balde, spoke of the measures put in place to ease the movement of persons and goods, mindful of challenges that come with such festivities. During festivities like Tobaski, business tends to be a very high peak for even more canoe operators. Many people crossing the south bank also opted to use the small canoes, which they believe is faster. But with 2 ferries up and running from Banjul to Bara, it appears it is not business as usual for them. As it stands, Mod Lamindur and Wali Jonga are only hoping that clients will come for their service too. Kumbaba, GRTS. It is just
That report by Kumbaba takes us to a first break, but we'll be back with news from outside the Gambia. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The leader of the coup attempt in Burkina Faso says he wants a peaceful solution to the political crisis. That as the country's parliament dissolves the elite presidential guard who led last week's takeover. The army tell them to disarm or face attack. A deadline has expired, but a face-off continues. More on that on this DWTV report.
Burkina Faso's army back on the streets of the capital. After their return overnight, troops and armed personnel carriers were stationed outside the barracks of the elite Presidential Guard. That's the unit that carried out last week's coup. From the welcome afforded the army, many locals seem to believe that the coup is now over. But as yet, those celebrations seem premature. The coup leader has been holding negotiations and seems to be holding firm. On Monday night, he went on national television and apologized for his actions. He said he would step down, but set conditions. We deplore the loss of human lives, wounded people and material damage, and we offer our condolences to the grieving families. We confirm our commitment to return power to the civilian transition authorities after a definitive agreement to get out of the crisis made under the authority of ECOWAS. ECOWAS, the regional grouping, has been mediating in the crisis. Diandéré says he won't step aside until it's approved a deal. That would give him and others involved in the coup amnesty. It would also allow their political allies to stand in upcoming elections. For many in the population, though, that is asking too much. This is the national liberation. We are tired of this. We don't want Diandéré. We don't want the Presidential Guard. Burkina Faso is ours. We will save it. We have no need of ECOWAS here, nor the international community. The coup leader has promised to retaliate if the army attacks. Civil society leaders have called on protesters to clear the streets. These are tense hours in Burkina Faso.
Now, the Pentagon denies that it has ordered the U.S. forces to ignore sexual abuse of minors by Afghans. But the New York Times is reporting not only were U.S. service members told not to intervene in the abuse of boys, some were punished when they did. CNN has the details.
They're called dancing boys, T-boys, or by many who have had to turn a blind eye to them, Afghan sex slaves. A subculture of bachabazi, or boy play, is widely known in Afghanistan. But for U.S. service members there, the abuse of these children is infuriatingly hard to stop, especially when the abuse comes from American-backed Afghan commanders there.
I had a boy because every commander had one.
In a 2010 PBS documentary, a former Afghan commander of the Northern Alliance spoke openly, shamelessly, about this sick practice.
If I didn't have a boy, I couldn't compete with the others.
Today, the New York Times reports that the American military stands accused of ordering troops to purposely turn a blind eye to the abuse in order to maintain good relations with Afghan forces.
The reason that we weren't able to step in with these local rape cases was we didn't want to undermine the authority of the local government. We were trying to build up the local government. Us acting after the local government fails to can certainly undermine their credibility.
Retired U.S. Army Captain Dan Quinn tells CNN that he and Sergeant First Class Charles Martland were punished for confronting an admitted Afghan child rapist, a police commander.
The confrontation turned physical, and I picked him up, threw him onto the ground multiple times, and Charles did the same thing. We basically had to make sure that he fully understood that if he ever went near that boy or his mother again, there was going to be hell to pay.
Quinn says he and Martland were relieved of their duties shortly thereafter. Martland is being involuntarily separated now from the Army.
I think the fear is that if we were to intervene, we wouldn't have the kind of close working relationship that we need with Afghan military.
Terrorism expert Jessica Stern says this is far from an isolated incident. She's spoken to several service members who say they were disturbed by what they saw.
They must have felt that they couldn't respond in the way they would have liked to. It was clearly a very painful subject.
Congressman and veteran Duncan Hunter, a Republican from California, is trying to save Martlin's career, writing to Defense Secretary Ash Carter, quote, "Martlin stood up to a child rapist. I trust you will give this case the attention it demands." A Pentagon spokesman told CNN today, "We have never had a policy in place that directs any military member or any government personnel overseas to ignore human rights abuses. Any sexual abuse is completely unacceptable."
We take our second break now. Welcome back. We now join the Weather Forecast Office for the day's weather outlook.
Everything as you know it starts here. That simple promise of a harvest after planting is nature's service to the community that you and I are a part of. We carry on bonding and sharing because the feeling to serve is mutual. But that promise between us, the sun and the land, is what gives us the hope to carry on. And as it was in the beginning, we started with a belief to serve. Elton, a new vision of service.
And to news just in, the Office of the President hereby informs the general public that all those who should have benefited from the President's Hajj package and for circumstances beyond his control could not travel to Mecca to perform the Hajj are hereby requested to report to their various regional headquarters. And for those in the Kanifing municipality, Banjul and the West Coast region should report to regional offices by 10 a.m. For those beneficiaries in other regions to converge on their regional offices tomorrow, Wednesday, 23rd September 2015. Each of the beneficiaries will receive a generous package of 50,000 dalasi from the President. The President and First Family wish Gambians happy Eid celebrations. And before we take leave of you, a recap of the day's main stories. President Jammeh has urged the citizenry to embrace animal husbandry as a viable economic activity in order to reduce the dependency on imported products. Another award for President Jammeh. African Leadership Magazine, a reputable international organization, has recognized the remarkable development initiatives being championed by the Gambian leader. Gambians are gearing up for Eid prayers, with many making last-minute attempts to secure sacrificial rams. A good number has already benefited from the presidential ram sales, which is underway at the July 22nd Square in Banjul. And Burkina Faso's parliament has announced the disbanding of the elite presidential guard unit amid tensions in the West African state. Well, that was all in this news edition of the News at 10. From me, WINIFRED, NICOL, and the entire news team, thanks for being there. Enjoy the rest of our programs.